back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today, I'm going to talk about one of our most prolific directors, Harry Harris. You've probably heard me mention him a number of times. So I thought I would share a little bit more in depth about his life and his career. If you enjoy these segments, please do hit like and subscribe. Harry Harris, born Harry Howard Harris Jr. on 9/18/1922 in Kansas City, Missouri, passed March 19th, 2009. On the Internet Movie Database bio, it says, Harry was born in Kansas City and moved to Los Angeles in 1937 and worked in the mailroom at Columbia Studios. Soon after, he attended UCLA while working as an apprentice sound cutter and then an assistant sound effects editor. His supervisor at Columbia was Ronald Reagan, who hired him as a sound effects editor for training in combat films. Harry's career was interrupted by World War II because he enlisted in the Army Air Forces, serving in the 1st Motion Picture Unit. Harry won an Emmy in 1982 for directing in a drama series for an episode of Fame. He was also Emmy nominated for an episode of The Waltons in 1972, and for a daytime Emmy for directing after-school special, Have You Ever Been Ashamed of Your Parents? Harry directed hundreds of TV episodes for shows such as Rawhide, Gunsmoke, Bonanza, The Virginian, Kung Fu, Lost in Space, Hawaii Five-0, Falcon Crest, and 8 is Enough. Harry is survived by his wife Patty, daughters Joanne and Suzanne, and stepson Michael DeRudy. In terms of Emmys, he won a Primetime Emmy in 1982 for Outstanding Directing in a Drama Series for the Fame episode To Soar and Never Falter. And then he was nominated for an Emmy and Directors Guild of America for directing the Waltons episode The Journey. On the Waltons, he directed 40-ish episodes, the most of any of our directors. And he also directed a Walton Thanksgiving reunion movie. He directed in all 9 seasons. In season 1, he directed The Calf, The Boy from the CCC, The Fire, The Courtship, and The Gypsies. Season 2, The Journey, The Theft, and The Heritage. In seasons 3 and 4, The Thoroughbred, The Runaway, The System, The Book, The Sermon, The Genius, Prophecy, Estrangement, Search, The Burnout, and The Fledgling. Season 5, The Vigil, Cloudburst, Elopement, Career Girl, Inferno, Long Night, and The Achievement, which was Richard Thomas's last episode of the regular series. In season 6, The Stray and the First Casualty, and The Return, which was the episode when Richard Thomas first returned after having left the series. Season 7, Day of Infamy, which of course was a very significant episode for me. The Boosters, The Parting, when Michael Learned left, The Burden, and The Attack. And season 8, The Homefront, parts 1 and 2, The Last Straw, The Furlough, and The Valediction, which was Jim Bob's graduation. And then in season 9, The Revel, which was the very last episode of the series that we filmed. A number of obituaries were written when he passed, both for the TV Academy, Variety, and the LA Times. They covered pretty much the same information, including that he enlisted in the Army at the start of World War II and reported to Hal Roach Studios in Culver City, where his supervisor was Ronald Reagan. And it says, when the war ended, he became an assistant film editor and then an editor at Desilu. His directing debut came when Desi Arnaz gave him a chance to try directing while working as an editor on the Rory Calhoun series, The Texan. 4 stars Ed Adamson then hired Harris to direct Wanted, Dead or Alive, starring Steve McQueen, and he went on to direct episodes for numerous Western series before turning mostly to TV dramas. Along with a number of the cast and other people connected with the Waltons, I attended his memorial service in LA in 2009. Things I remember about Harry was because he had a background as an editor, he knew how to shoot quickly and efficiently. He knew how he was going to put it together. He could see the edit in his mind as he was putting together the shot list and things like that. So he didn't overshoot. He didn't spend a lot of time getting cuts of things that he wasn't going to use, or he might not even do an entire long shot because he knew that he was only going to use the beginning of it. So we might get partway into it, and then if something flubbed or happened, he might just go cut because he knew that it would be a waste of film if he was only going to use the beginning of it. I appreciated that aspect of his vision, and it made it very simple as an actor to just get on with it. I always remembered that he always seemed to have episodes with kids and animals, and yet he kept coming back and dealing with them. So clearly he did a good job, despite he was kind of a curmudgeon-y kind of guy, but in a funny sort of way. And he didn't take himself too seriously. He just always seemed kind of henpecked and whatnot. But in looking back at some of the episodes he did, take a look at this in terms of animals. Of course, the calf, the episode The Calf. In The Boy from the CCC, there was the raccoon. In The Thoroughbred, he had horses and a mule, which raised that question, that story about when John Boy's trying to teach Blue how to deal with a saddle, and he's supposed to be not want to have to deal with the saddle and spook. And the only thing that the trainer knew that he was scared of was a camel. And so they literally brought a camel to the set to surprise the mule at the point that John Boy brings out the saddle so that the mule would run away. So Harry had to deal with that in the episode The Search. The bear that Jim Bob scares away. And then lots of chickens and stuff like that. And the chickens, when they'd ring the bell on the back lot to start filming, the chickens would start squawking and stuff. And so I remember the catchphrase that Mary and a number of us got used to, because Harry would go, "What are we going to do about the chickens?" From a sound standpoint and things like that. Or they'd be escaping. Or so at one point between seasons, when Mary McDonough and I went on a cruise together, and we were on, I believe, the island of Grenada, taking a little taxi tour around the island, and along, because it was such a rural area, going along these dirt potholed roads, all of a sudden there'd be chickens on the side of the road. And Mary and I took pictures of the chickens to take them back to Harry and show him, and said, "Harry, what are we going to do about the chickens?" So he was what I call an affable grump, and he could laugh about it as well, which was great. Obviously, over the course of all the seasons, and then the reunion movie that he did, he was around a lot. So he was someone that we spent a lot of time with, a lot of time working with, and I never found him difficult to work with. You got used to his personality, and so you just kind of could kind of kid with him about it, or if he was having a particularly difficult day with something in the filming that wasn't going well, you just kind of gave him his space and stuff. But obviously the production company was very happy with him, because he did so many episodes of the Waltons and went on to direct episodes of other shows of theirs like Falcon Crest and Eight is Enough. So he had a long and very prolific career in directing. And, as was mentioned, he had nominations for Emmys. And interesting that he also was nominated for the series Fame, because when I spoke with Michael McGreevy recently, who did the episode The Braggart and then wrote 4 episodes of The Waltons, Michael talked about having been a producer on the series Fame. So I'm sure that, he was weighed in on saying, yes, let's hire Harry to direct episodes. I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit more about our director, Harry Harris. I know I enjoyed learning more about his life and his career when I was looking into those things in order to share this episode with you. So I will see you next time for more behind the scenes of the Waltons and answer more of your questions in an Ask Judy. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.